Remember when everyone thought NFTs were the future of modern art, only to realize they were just expensive JPEGs? When you can't trust the trend, trust 30 years of outperforming benchmarks.
Coronation. Trust is earned. Coronation is an authorized FSP.
Now, to say that I don't know how my next guest does it would be an understatement. Lauren O'Connor-May is a journalist, a proud Capetonian, and a mother of 7 daughters, and she's also now a published author. Her book, Dreamhouse Adventures, is a beautiful, heartwarming journey filled with magic, imagination, and the power of family. And it's an enchanting story in which we meet Verity, a little girl whose dream house takes her on nightly adventures until, as she grows older, the magic seems to fade. But Verity soon discovers a new wonder in real-life moments shared with her family, especially her little sister Max. And the book draws from Lauren's own life, her own children. She has got a Verity and she's got a Max and she's got 5 others. It's really a love letter to motherhood and childhood and magic and adventures that wait just beyond your front door. Lauren, what a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome. Good to be with you.
Hello, Sarah. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Listen, let's start with what is really the heart of the story, which is the house. What inspired this concept?
Well, Verity and Max are very close together. They're only 16 months apart. And so when Verity was being weaned, Max was still a baby, was breastfeeding herself to sleep, and so to comfort Verity, we used to make up stories together at night, and she would eventually fall asleep during this collaborative storytelling. And she'd always want to be the sort of driver of the story. She'd choose the subject, and she'd always make herself the lead in the story, and depending on her mood that day, if Max had annoyed her or not, Max would always be in the story either as an antagonist or as a best friend, or however she felt about Max, basically based on her experiences of that day. And this one night I was doing the same with her, and she said, I want to tell a story about a house. And then we started telling the story, but she fell asleep almost immediately, and unbeknownst to me, I was sort of talking to myself, telling the story to the ceiling, basically, until I got to the end, and then I was curious, like, why? Because ordinarily she butts in and she stops me and steers it in a different direction, but this night, she sort of attentively listened and then dozed off. So I was curious about why was this one different? Why did this one hold her attention so long? And so I told it to my other kids, and immediately they started debating about it. And, oh no, the house was magical. And no, but it wasn't it. And the whole discussion started. And so I sat fascinated, sort of making mental notes. And then later on I went and I refined it, and I took a chance and I sent it to some publishers. And a few months later I got a call from Penguin, and that's how we are where we are now.
Listen, I have to ask, as a mom of 7 kids, I mean, that in itself is a story of note. How on earth did you find time to write a children's book looking after 7 children?
Okay. People ask me this a lot because I think the perception is that children stay little. And because little children take up a lot of time and they need a lot of help to do things, even small things. I mean, you have little children, so you know. But as they grow older, they become more self-sufficient, and actually they help me a lot. They look after each other. I've got my second eldest currently trying to keep Max out of the bedroom, which I've locked myself in because I know Max knows the minute I'm doing any kind of phone call or conference or video conference, she wants to be there and in the screen and screaming and wanting all the attention. That's Max's personality.
As much as people say, gosh, how have you managed to write a book with 7 kids? And you're quite right that there is the idea, I think, because I'm pretty much still in the trenches with having 2 very small children. Yes. You forget that they do grow up and they do become a lot more self-sufficient, and the bigger ones can help out with the little ones, and then you end up having more time. Any moments that are in the book that come straight from real life in terms of how your own family adventures influenced the book?
Yes. Well, we go to the beach a lot, and there's actually some family adventures that I needed to cut from the book because for length, because you can't go over a certain word count for kiddies books. But most of them are actually based in some part on our real life adventures. It's not exactly as it's portrayed in the book, because in the book the kids are all young, and in the book we all go on adventures together. But in reality, I've got 3 teens, and then I've got 2 twins, and then I've got younger ones. And teenagers are not interested in the same kind of things that little ones are. So in reality, when we go out, we kind of have groupings that we split them in. But we do go on family adventures. I mean, my husband took my eldest, and because I've got 3 birthdays in January, my kids' birthdays are all weirdly clustered together in specific months. So he took all 3 of my January birthdays up Table Mountain for their birthdays in January, and they will probably do something similar again next year for the aquarium and the big wheel and all those things you get to do for free on your birthday. So that's what we do. We we do go out together a lot as a family. Not exactly as it's portrayed in the book, but the book's adventures are based pretty much on what we really do.
There's a really beautiful message in the book about growing up and finding different types of magic. Was that theme something that you wanted to explore? Like, did you have that in mind, or did it just evolve as you sat down and put pen to paper?
It evolved. I think, like I said, when I was telling the story to Verity initially, the first version is not very different from the final version. But when I was telling her the story initially, I was just going with whatever was working in that moment. And then later, when I refined it, I think the message I feel for me really is that storytelling is integral to parenting. I feel like storytelling to teach children about lessons and to teach children about life and to teach is really just the best way, one of the strongest, I think, parenting tools we can have in our arsenal. And I don't think it does feature so much in modern parenting as it should. But it's always traditionally over generations, cultures all over the world have had storytelling as part of their parenting culture. And I think it's tapering off a little bit now in modern times. But I think that for me was a stronger message. I mean, magic and fantasy, those are good concepts, for younger children if you need comfort ideas. I mean, the whole tooth fairy idea is entirely a comfort idea because losing teeth when you're young and you don't know what's coming, it can be scary. And so the tooth fairy makes sense in that moment. And then as the kids get older, they don't need it anymore. They know, okay, this is just a part of life and we're growing up. And so I think there is room for sort of the idea of magic and fantasy to be used for comfort. But I think for me, the bigger message is just that storytelling and parenting should really go hand in hand.
If you're just joining us, we are talking to the author of a brand new children's book available from LAPA and Penguin Random House South Africa. It's called Dream House Adventures, available in English and Afrikaans, and the author is Lauren O'Connor May. The book features 2 of her children as primary characters, 2 of her 7 children as primary characters, Verity and Max. It's such a beautiful relationship. How important was it for you to show siblings bonded in this way?
Initially, the funny thing is, because of Verity's sort of leading the storytelling, it was just her and Max in the original story concept. But then the editor at Penguin said, look, we like your background. Please put more of your children in the story. And then I ended up rewriting it, including more of all of my children. And then a funny thing happened yesterday, which is related to this, by the way. I went to my friend's house and her mom had got a copy of the book and she said to me, why did you only put one of your children in the book? Only 2 of your children in the book, that's so unfair. And then I had to explain to her, no, initially there were more, and because we then had to go back and cut all their names and their dialogue that I'd added, because then it became too complicated for young children to have so many characters in a book. So that's why the older ones kind of feature in the background. But I think the sibling thing, that part, sort of writing that dynamic between siblings is easy for me because I have several siblings. I've got 2 sisters and a brother, and then my kids, just seeing how they interact with each other. That part came about rather naturally in the book because I love it, basically. I see it all the time.
I've got to ask, what do the kids think of the book, especially Verity? Do they recognise themselves in the characters?
the characters are sort of very, very basic. So I don't think there's much to recognize in there. Even the drawings don't look much like my kids actually look. Even though the artist based the drawings, the artworks in the book from actual family pictures. But Verity actually today, because they had the school had book day 2 days later than normal. They like to have all these sort of activities on a Friday. So she went today dressed as herself with the book in tow to book day at the school.
I love that. How many children can go as themselves as a character from a book? That's pretty special.
Yeah, and I teased her a few months ago, because I think this is the second book day of the year, and she went as Cruella de Vil a few months ago, mostly just because we had that costume ready, not because she likes Cruella de Vil, but we had that costume ready made. But then I joked with her and I said, in a few months you can go as yourself, and then she did. She went today as herself, so she's quite chuffed about it. She likes having herself in the book. Max, on the other hand, being the diva and the drama queen that she is very upset about the fact that she's not the star of this book. Because she's turning 4 at the end of this month, but she's already telling everyone that she's 4. And in this book, she's portrayed as a baby of all things. She is mortified and horrified about this. And at one point, she actually told me, "I hate your book."
Oh no!
I hate. But I know it's mostly because Verity is the star of this book, not her. So that's why. And then afterwards, she'll sit and read it, and she'll want me to read it. So she clearly has very ambivalent feelings about this book, mostly because of how she's portrayed in it as a baby of all things.
I mean, listen, you've got 7 kids, so presumably you've got. They could each have their own book, and I mean the story really lends itself to there being more adventures. Is that in the pipeline? Is there going to be a book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7?
I don't think so, actually. For me, Dreamhouse, this book feels like it's a complete story and concept in and of itself. Look, I'm writing all the time about my own family and my own children. I have an online column that comes out once a month, which is all about our strange living arrangement. Because to other people, it's very strange, but in the circles I grow up in, we're actually a small family. The circles I hang out in, I should say. We're actually a small family, because I'm friends with lots of other large families, but to other people, it's strange. And so I do write about that online in a column every month. But I don't know if it's going to be more books. I don't think that's entirely up to me. I can certainly easily write more of them, but the publishers know what they like and what they can market, and so whether it will actually get to the stage of being where Dreamhouse is now, I don't know. And I can certainly write it though.
How are you adapting to the life of a published author? I mean, it's a really, I know this, going into a bookshop and seeing a copy of your own book is a really special moment. How did you feel when you first held it in your hands?
It was very surreal. All of it still feels very unreal. It still feels like I'm being pranked in some way. And it didn't help that the book came out on April 1st. So some part of me always felt like I was going to get this email saying, it was just a joke. We're just teasing you. But thankfully, a few weeks before I got the advanced copies of the book and I got to hold it. And it's been interesting. The funny thing about the whole culmination of this book is, every time when in our family there was some kind of crisis happening, there was something bad happening, there was, because life is not a straight path. There's always ups and downs, and we have them like any other people. Being a published author doesn't make that any different. But
yep, true.
It was interesting that while this was going on, while we had some of them very real serious crises happening, at the same time I'd get like a little nugget of hope about this book that was coming out, and it was very encouraging for me. There's hope on the horizon. I'm still here. Don't let all the darkness overwhelm you, basically. So, yeah, that for me was very poignant. But I'm still getting used to the idea. I'm still sort of figuring my way through this whole author title.
Lauren O'Connor is the author of Dreamhouse Adventures. It's available in English and Afrikaans. Do please go and pick up a copy. It's so beautiful. Your kids are going to love it. My kids want me to read it to them every single night. And it really is beautiful. Go and follow the adventures of Verity and Max in the Dreamhouse Adventures. Lauren, thank you very much indeed. Congratulations on the book, which I'm sure, despite Lauren's protestations, it's probably going to be the first of many, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful concept.